The test of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold two opposed ideas in the mind at the same time and still retain the ability to function. Francis Scott Fitzgerald.
Dear friends, I'd love to hear your thoughts, your critiques, your ideas, and your reflections on the material we've already covered in previous videos. Also, if you've enjoyed any of the videos, please don't forget to like them, and maybe even share them with your friends. And of course, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel, New Paradigm of Life, so you don't miss what's coming next. But for now,
Chapter 5. Absolute Good and Evil.
The material in this chapter is not crucial to the rest of the book, so readers may consider it somewhat optional. However, I believe many readers have likely pondered the questions, what are good and evil, and do absolute good and evil even exist? So I wanted to share my thoughts on the subject. Most likely, the first thing that comes to mind for many is that good and evil are always relative and subjective. What seems good to me might easily appear evil to someone else. Indeed, in any war, there are two sides, and our understanding of good and evil depends directly on which side we associate ourselves with, right? Moreover, it often happens that something which was undoubtedly considered good yesterday becomes regarded as absolute evil today. And no, I'm not just talking about marriage. We should also note that over time, people's notions of honesty and justice evolve. For example, just 200 years ago, turning in a runaway slave to the authorities was seen as an honest act, and the very division of people into masters and slaves was considered entirely just. If we've agreed that life is a process of understanding the universe, and that the purpose of life is to find the fully adequate model of the universe, then we can assert that good and evil are also objective categories. There's a graph. Way off in the distance, there's the fully adequate model of the universe, the truth, something that does exist, but no one knows it yet. Now, here's our current collective model of the universe. As you can see, it's still far from being fully adequate. This collective model is constantly changing. Sometimes history brings us a little closer to the truth. Other times, we drift farther away. So here's the key idea.
any actions that distance a given model of the universe from the fully adequate model of the universe are absolute evil. Any actions that bring a given model of the universe closer to the fully adequate model of the universe are absolute good.
Let's consider humanity and its historical deviations in social evolution as an example. We are all familiar with such obvious dead ends of human social evolution as Bolshevism, Nazism, or, for example, the bloody social experiments of Pol Pot. If we assume that the path of humanism brings us closer to the fully adequate model of the universe, then Nazism clearly led humanity away from that path. Thus, everything that worked to strengthen and protect Nazism was evil, and everything done to destroy Nazism was, accordingly, good. There are, of course, more complex examples where it is difficult to qualify certain events and actions as good or evil, simply because no one knows the fully adequate model of the universe. For instance, it's hard to say whether the invention of nuclear weapons is good or evil. Nevertheless, this ambiguity is irrelevant. What matters is that an objective criterion for qualifying good and evil exists, and therefore, absolute good and evil objectively exist as well.
Summary.
Any actions that distance a given model of the universe from the fully adequate model of the universe are absolute evil. Any actions that bring a given model of the universe closer to the fully adequate model of the universe are absolute good. This video concludes the first part of the book, titled Basic Concepts. Ahead of you lie Part 2, Mechanisms of Life, and Part 3, Appendices. See you in Part 2, dear friends.